James, how are you? Welcome. Welcome.
When plan A isn't working, you can go to plan B. And sometimes in a crisis, to be honest with you, you've got to have a plan C or even a plan D. But flexibility is very important for leaders to be able to lead people through the landmines of that crisis. Number four, leverage your team. In other words, utilize your team. Bring your team together because as they come together, you've got one vision, one mission, but you do have different perspectives. It's just this simple. All of us is not as smart, or
The more you
almost as
meditate,
smart.
the less likely you are to
So
make a
if I'm
mistake.
just doing this by myself, I'm not what I need. I need my team around me to give me those different perspectives. Tim Blanchard is the one, by the way, that said all of us are smarter than just one of us.
Hi, Deb. Welcome. How you doing? I'm going to ask everybody to just kind of type in their word for today. What is that one word that would describe where you are? It's called taking the pulse. I'm looking for Kevin and Jibola and Gabriel. Now we're going to be starting up this call with them so we can help to bring more people into the call. Deborah, can I feel you today? What's your one word? Go ahead and type in. James, go ahead and type in what's your one word. Jabola may have a one word for us. Does Jabola have a one word for us? You can type in. Mm-hmm. Deborah, you're bored. All right, you're bored. What can we do about you being bored today? Yes, I am okay. I was trying to dial some people in just so we can get more of a group going here. I was hoping to see my team online with me as well. They were going to help me to bring people in. But I tell you what, It's just awesome to see the people on the call. So I am okay, Deborah. And I think, hopefully through the talk today, you'll pick out some things that can help you to be even more okay. And hi, Cheryl. Glad to see that you're watching as well. I think, one of the principles we're going to talk about is how we view things ends up being how we do things. So our perspective and our lens on the world is very, very important. So we're going to be going through that. I'm hoping that I can see Kevin online and Gabriel online and Jibola and my team that's been working with me to bring this on board. So I'm looking to see them online. Who's excited about finding some upside in all that we've been going through around the world? Is anybody excited? Give me a hand raise if you're excited about looking for some of the good things happening. Or if you see the possibilities. Hi, Tiara. Welcome. I was just asking for your one word. What one word to describe? I see Tina coming in. Our topic today is leadership in crisis. And some people ask, well, I'm not a leader, but I challenge, we're all a leader of ourselves. That's our first step. So as a leader of yourself in this moment, what's your one word? Go ahead and type it in. There's something I was listening to before we got started. It's about, was it Michael Bublé who sings the song, and I'm feeling good. I think it's a choice that we have about these times. Recently I was reflecting and someone was sharing, what is that, who is that author? But this is the best of times and these are the worst of times. When you think about when things were at their worst, what happens and how do people show up and how that truly becomes a test and demonstration of our character. I know one of the things that motivates me is in this particular crisis is looking at what story will I be able to tell my grandchildren, great-grandchildren, because this will be another line in time. Remember when we talk about pre-9/11, now at some point it'll be pre-COVID-19, right? So how do we want to be our best selves and what do we need to do to be able to show up because we're leaders of ourselves? So welcome Tina, Kenneth, and Jamila. I hope you'll stick in with us. We have about 45 minutes together. We're doing day 1 of leadership in crisis. What I want to do is go ahead and get started and we can catch anybody up that needs to be added afterwards. So this is a 4-part series. Hopefully you've seen the flyer. It's posted on my Facebook page. And the first section of it is defining the crisis. That's what we're going through today. The second is battling distractions during a crisis. Third one is character in a crisis. And the fourth one is real leadership in a crisis. Are you interested? Great that you're back, Deborah. Are you interested in maybe identifying, I think there are 6 keys that we'll need to show up as good leaders during this crisis? Are you interested in really knowing how to define the crisis so that as a leader, you're able to stand as a giraffe and not be a turtle in this whole process? So stick in with me on this. The structure for the work that we're doing with the leadership in crisis is something called a mastermind, and it's delivered in a mastermind. And a mastermind is different from a master class. A class generally is a one-way conversation, and you're just dropping facts and you're dropping key learnings for people. We'll have some of that, but what makes a mastermind slightly different is that the people participating are getting to ask themselves questions. So as we go on this leadership conversation, there'll be probes, there'll be reflective opportunities, and in those reflective opportunities, there'll be growth. So what we're looking for first is what you to really meditate on is, what is your intention? What is it that you would like to gain from the leadership in crisis curriculum? Tochu, hi, welcome, welcome. We almost met in Raleigh when I was here last year. I'm in Raleigh again. Nigeria closed the border, so I'm seizing the opportunity to come in from this side of the world. So thank you for joining in. I hope you'll stay. Leadership in Crisis. Mastermind is getting back to the format. The Mastermind, once you register for the course, we'll have that the detail of how to register. If you go to my Facebook page, I have a post that shows it, and we should be posting as the program goes along how to register. Then you get the Mastermind guide, and then those give you the questions. I'll be sharing those with you on this first session, and then we'll be just keep rocking and rolling. Yay! I'm clapping as well, Tochu. So the Facebook Dream Builders is a private group that you'll be getting access to when you register for the Mastermind. We'll have tons of resources there to support you on your journey. We'll have some of the John Maxwell videos on the topic of leadership in crisis and advantage through adversity. We'll also have one of my favorites, which is Morpheus from Matrix Reloaded. I don't know how many of you remember that scene where he says, things may not look good, but what I know for sure is that for hundreds of years, we've had one battle, one machine, one thing after another coming after us. But what he knows for these 100 years is that we are still here. Okay? Not all of us can necessarily show up as triumphantly and boldly as Morpheus did, but what we want to do today is get some of that Morpheus medicine, get some of that truth and belief where we can inspire and support and lift up those followers, whether those followers are, one, ourselves, because we've got to do some work to be able to lift ourselves, but two, the followers that include our family. What kind of environment and what type of fragrance are you bringing with your family? Are you the downer? Are you the person that can't see any possibility? And yes, we're all human. We have our down moments. But one of my goals in life to be one of the most optimistic people that I know. And optimistic, not from a point of not being a realist, but being a productive optimist that can still function even when things are not perfect, because it's important to move. You know, it's very difficult to steer a parked car. So if you fail to get into movement, you can never move to a good place. So getting unstuck is so key in order to bring some of the success that you want in your life and the lives of those that you affect. So since leadership is influence and nothing more, nothing less, welcome Lola. Leadership is influence. So we want to be able to be the right types of influences and you know, what is that thermostat versus a thermometer? A thermometer reads the temperature. And if you were to read the temperature right now, that looks like our current circumstance. That looks like, you know, we're in pandemic and so many, you know, woe is me kind of things. But when you are a thermostat, you're the person that comes in and sets the atmosphere and sets the temperature for the place, and you affect other people. So when we look at the opportunities in this space, think about how many people have maybe grown a better understanding, a deeper empathy of what people around them experience in life. Can anybody give me a thumbs up if you've had that experience of growing in empathy? I know for me, I've been spending more time in the kitchen and I'm actually enjoying that creative process. But for years, you know, I didn't cook so much, right? But I'm enjoying seeing the joy on people eating, on their face, eating my food. It's joy most of the time, isn't it, Chiron? But seeing the looks on their faces. So, you know, tapping into maybe some creativity that you have been leaving behind. Exactly, because leadership is influence. If you think people aren't watching, if you think people aren't listening, if you think people aren't paying attention to the atmosphere that you bring, you'd be deceiving yourself. So in the most common model, and hello Deb, the most common model of leadership has you sitting on top of an organization, on top of a company. We'll have those types of people in this session as well, whether you're in the now or in the future, right? But what we want to start with first is leading yourself And then in the situations where you're leading your family or needing to show up as a leader in your community, a leader in organizations. Do you see one of the first things that I noticed here was they were offering food, offering rides. I was looking for where can I help, because one of the things that makes you feel powerless is when you think there's nothing you can do. But that's why you have to put on a different lens to be able to turn in and plug in and say, how can I begin to make a difference? And quite honestly, for me, when this crisis and pandemic hit, and I'll give my situation very quickly, we were planning on being in Nigeria by now. So it was a interesting surprise when Delta sent us a note and saying within 24 hours, if you're not on the plane within 24 hours, you won't be able to go back to Nigeria. So that's how we ended up being in this wonderful place right now, because there were no seats on the flight. And on the other end, Nigeria closed the gates and said you can't come in until, whenever. So living in that space of ambiguity has really helped me personally to ground in what is important. And one of the anchors that as leaders we can bring into that is, what can I control versus what I can't control. Getting clarity even in uncertainty and anchoring down on what I can control. Can you see how that would give you a lot more power, a lot more strength in the situation. So we've got Haji, we've got Chi-Chi, so welcome. I'm going to jump right into the program and get started. I've talked about the structure, so we'll be laying down some principles, but encouraging you to do practices. And again, if you expect to have the participant guide, we'll need you to just register in the link. I'm hoping that my we'll be able to get that to you. So at the end of the day, the service that we're trying to provide is to listen to you. So you'll be typing, we'll ask you some questions. We've asked you about your mood or your one word, kind of where are you as you're coming in. So feel free to type that. I'd love to see your feedback, just to say, your intention for today. Where are you now in your feelings, your thoughts and beliefs? And where do you want to be at the end of this is session 1. Then we've got session 2 on Friday, session 3 on Monday, and session 4 on Tuesday. So where are you now versus where you want to be? I love that, Chi-Chi. You're going to always find the upside, right? That's your personality. You're relaxed. So in that relaxed state versus sometimes when we're kind of choked up and stressed and looking at deadlines, what can we begin to receive when we're relaxed? What can we begin to maybe learn about ourselves? So this whole session is to listen to you, to support you, encourage you, inspire, and motivate you into action, and to really help you. So those questions where you're probing into yourself are really going to be important ones. And again, resources will be available on the Dream Builders group on Facebook. First, day 1 is defining the crisis. Our objective clearly today is to learn more about what a crisis really is, so that we can better lead others through the crisis. When you're moving as an individual, you're just affecting yourself as an individual. I was listening to someone's testimony or their issue today where they say they spend most of their time alone anyway. Even if you're spending time alone, I bet there's some interaction, there's some energy or some vibration that you pass to people. So even in our individualness, we're not really an island. We still have an impact. We still make a ripple on others. So as a leader, and you're in a role of a leader, if you're a mother, if you're a father, if you're, how many of us have been in the situation where, God forbid, we've lost people in our families, and maybe we've been looked upon to be the person to organize things, right? In a time when you're least able, welcome Jennifer and Goke, in the time that you're least able to do all of that type of planning, God in the situation is calling upon you to be a very, very good project manager. That's what this is like. So when we begin to define a crisis so that we can lead others, because the higher we go in the chart, or if we look at it as a servant leader, the lower we go, the more people we're impacting. So when a leader hits, 2 notch wrong, everyone that's following them get off by miles. So it's very important that as a leader that we're very clear and very focused. So that's why we're going to really work on defining what is a crisis. You might say, how do you become a good leader and help people through a crisis? The key is all about perspective. How we view things is how we do things. When you're a good leader, you're able to give hope, security, and perspective. Now think about that for a minute. If you're going through a situation and you perceive it as a situation where you have no hope, right? This is it. Maybe you've given up before you start. Can you see that might shape how you actually are? How many of us are experiencing in this downtime? And I like to call it downtime because it's what we make it, right? In your downtime, you get to choose some aspects of how you can respond. How many of you are finding yourselves getting into more structure and routine because you know that you need that in order to be successful and goal-oriented and move? So raise your hand if you're on that side of this is helping you with structure. And don't worry about being on this other side. How many of us are saying, is there a reason really to get out of the bed? I used to get up to have to run somewhere because people were expecting me there. Or, does it really matter? Am I taking showers, right? All of those things that may begin to show us that some people feel like they don't have a choice when a situation happens, right? And the whole message behind this is that we do have a choice on how we want to show up. So our perspective of how we look at the thing will affect how the thing really is. And one of the things we need to recognize is that in a crisis situation, oftentimes when it's going on, we often think it's the worst thing that's ever happened. One of the things I want to give us some hope around is this crises are kind of common. They come regularly. If you are a student of history, you can call some of them out. When you think of like when AIDS first came out, but it was 2 years before they even knew what the virus was. Whereas in this case, this came out in December, and end of December. By January, we knew what COVID was and we knew what the virus was. So when we look at some of the put it in perspective, there have been crises before and we've emerged from them. Quick ones would be 9/11, right? I remember going through 9/11. I remember where I was at that moment in time. Think about SARS, when they were wearing the mask and we were seeing them, from looking from afar, going through it. We didn't feel like so much it affected us. Well, welcome Stacy and Gladys. Think about the Ebola in Nigeria. We went through the Ebola crisis in 2014. You remember we were doing the elbows and the fist bumps. So once this came along, I began to try to put it in perspective of what are the things that we've already experienced. So when you look at a crisis, that perspective that you put on it to help to prioritize it and say, okay, the wisest man on earth was considered to be Solomon, right? And what he advised is, this too shall pass. Thank you very much, Gladys. And it's important to have that perspective because bad things will pass, as well as if you're in a good space, things will pass. Basically, it's just telling us nothing is static. So don't accept that a situation is static, and don't accept that you are a victim in a situation. Begin to identify where are there areas that I can make a difference. I'm going to go through very quickly six things that can help you to become a good leader and help others through a crisis. Once it's defined and has the right perspective on it, how you view the thing determines how you do the thing. Number one putting people first. When we decided to be leaders, that means we gave up the right to put ourselves first in terms of lifting and rising and moving in a direction. People first means that you need to serve, you need to lift, you need to love, you need to get through and get better. So in terms of people first, it requires something called empathy. Empathy, I always try to illustrate, and I love this. Thank you, Brittany and Stacy and Tiara, that are sharing. And crisis does have an expiration date. Thank you very much. That milk in your refrigerator will eventually go bad, and crisis does as well. And sometimes it may not completely be the crisis that changes, but it's our perspective on the crisis that changes. I was brainstorming with someone the other day and said, hey, at the end of this, I was going through a drive-thru and I saw a sticker that said, this place has been certified and cleaned by so-and-so, and it had a date on it. And it made me feel, more comfortable buying there. And I wondered, are cleaning businesses going to see a surge as